I think it was remote Orissa, like very remote, which was again like 60-70 kilometers away from the nearest city. And he was very welcoming. He actually took me to the house. And then he was showing कि ये fridge आप देख रहे हो? I said हाँ. ये आप washing machine देख रहे हो? मैंने कहा हाँ. ये scooty आप देख रहे हो? मैंने कहा हाँ. ये सब Tata Play ने दिया है मुझे. So like it just feels so good when you have that sort of a relationship, right?
Here we are with another interesting video with us, another interesting guest that we have today. We are still sitting at this colorful Tata Play office right at the heart of Bombay, and with me today is Paras. Paras has done his engineering, as most of the MBA graduates in India do.
Yeah.
And he has an MBA degree from SPJIMR, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So I was born in Hyderabad, grew up in Delhi, did my entire schooling there, then moved back to Hyderabad for my engineering, where I did my engineering from BITS Pilani Hyderabad campus. Then came to Mumbai for the first time for my MBA at SPJIMR Mumbai.
Right. So help me understand this a little bit. You know, I've asked this question to, n number of engineers, and I'm asking this to you also. At what point did you think that, बहुत हो गया engineering, now I want to get into the world of MBA?
Even before going into engineering, I had this thought in mind that I wanted to explore as much as possible. So before joining or even pursuing engineering, I had it in my mind that I'll do engineering first and then I'll go for an MBA. So it wasn't like a spur of the moment where midway through engineering I thought ki nahi bas ho gaya, let me just skip into MBA, I'm not liking this field. So it was more a planned approach, I would say, rather than a spur of the moment thought.
Let's now talk about why a lot of students go to different B schools. It's about, getting the right summer placement, getting the right placement from a B school so that they have a better life that they were aiming at. For you, what sort of industries or sectors that you were looking at, and when Tata Play happened, what was that selection process like?
When Tata Play had come with their campus placement talk, the pre-placement talk, I think it was rather a very easy decision for me whether I want to apply for it or not, because just the presentation and like the people who had come, and even one of my seniors was working at that point. So
right.
My interaction with him told me that yes, this is definitely one of the dream companies.
You said that you had a marketing major, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So was that the beginning of your stint here when you actually joined as a management trainee? What sort of experiences were there when you were part of this 1 year as a management trainee, and how do you look back to that?
I would say that was probably one of the best years I've had in my life, because I got to do so many things. So I started off with the sales stint. So I was posted in Kerala, Kochi. That was the first time I was actually going to Kerala. And probably the unique thing about my stint versus probably some of my peer stints in sales would be that when I had gone there, due to movement within the team, there was no hierarchy as such. There was just the circle head, and then I was doing the work of an area sales manager and also of a DSR, who's the distributor sales representative. I was basically a one-man army in the entire city of Kochi at that point, honestly.
Right.
So basically, one of the bigger tasks which I was given was to open new outlets for our product. So I had to go to outlets which I thought could be doing well if they sold a Tata Play product. So I had to approach them saying, this is our product, this is our pitch, so would you be willing to sell it to your customers who would be coming in?
So from this sales stint, what came next as part of your MT stint? And from being a marketing person to actually doing a sales, getting a hands-on experience and training very early in your life, how things changed for you?
So what came next for me, of course, there were a lot of learnings from sales. So one of the next steps in a value chain at Tata Play after sales is the service. Because once a customer or a prospective customer, they would book a connection, It's now the service team's job to go and install it and tell the customer what the entire product and value is about. The good thing, the way the stints were designed is we got from point 0 to point 10 rather than jumping here and there haphazardly. So we got the entire flow of it. So the next stint was a service stint, and I was in Mumbai itself for that. So I got to work with again a very good and supportive team. So where I got to understand the kind of grievances that a regular customer or an existing subscriber would have, plus what are the challenges. The bigger learning I would say is what are the challenges that the technicians or installers would face.
Right. After going through these stints, after learning about the company and the way it functions, you choose to be part of a particular segment that you want to develop, right? And sales is something that you started your career with at Tata Play. What exactly interested you in taking up sales, and what sort of work you started off?
Unless you know the ground reality, you can't be a good decision maker once you sit in the offices, right? So I always wanted to understand what goes on the field. While the projects that I had done or even the sales stint that I had was quite comprehensive enough for me to get a good understanding, obviously I wanted to contribute a bit more and learn a bit more in the sales domain. So I started off with the sales and distribution planning team, which was a corporate based team, and I was handling this channel, which is basically a community of freelancers who do both sales and service for us. They're not on roll, but it's like freelancers who would be like the influencers in their particular villages or rural areas, and then developing that community, increasing the engagement with them. We had a huge loyalty program which we still run, a very successful program, and although in our regular travels we go for the probably the touristy spots, during my entire sales stint of like the role of 2.5 years, I got to travel to rural areas across the country, which you don't do normally. So just getting to understand the pulse of the market, interacting with the people, you get to see so many different things, and it adds value not just as an employee but also as a human, because you get to see so many different perspectives which you don't see otherwise.
So in the 2 years that you spent while you were doing sales with Tata Play, any product or service that you worked with specifically that has still been fresh in your memory, which you still go back and think about, that I have made a significant contribution in making what it is?
So like I had mentioned, there was this loyalty program which still runs. One of the fond memories again, now that we've come to it, would be like remote Orissa, like very remote, which was again like 60-70 kilometers away from the nearest city. He was very welcoming. He was showing कि ये fridge आप देख रहे हो? I said हाँ. ये आप washing machine देख रहे हो? मैंने कहा हाँ. ये scooty आप देख रहे हो? मैंने कहा हाँ. ये सब Tata Play ने दिया है मुझे. So like it just feels so good when you have that sort of a relationship, right?
Do you see ODT as a challenge?
Not really, because we are sort of collaborating with them. So it's more like a synergistic relationship rather than, I would say, a challenge. So, and the kind of organization that we are, we try to keep up with the times rather than cribbing about how the times have changed. We would like to be ahead of the times. 5 years back when I joined, there was no bench. There was not such a, presence of OTT at that point of time. So it was all DTH, that was the major thing. But now the times have changed and we are keeping up with it, and we are constantly innovating in terms of the products and services that we come up with.
Absolutely. In the 5 years that you've spent here, help me understand what was the biggest challenge that you faced? There are always daily challenges that you face and fix, and then you go home and feel good about it. And then there are persisting, large, looming challenges that needs a long-term solution, a long-term fix. What has been the biggest challenge so far for you, if I have to ask you, and how did you mitigate that?
So I joined the finance function about 1.5 years back, and I'm part of the financial planning and analysis team. So one of the bigger problems, or rather areas that we're trying to look at, is with the kind of quantum of data that we have, especially here at Tata Play. We are a tech first or data first company. We have immense amounts of data. So how do we sort of empower our employees to be more data centric in their decision making? One of the major initiatives that we had taken was something called a brand, an umbrella brand that we created called Data Smiths, under which we are sort of trying to build this community or sort of a sentiment of cross-functional collaboration where we're trying to come up with projects, etc. We as a team are trying to sort of propagate or push or promote the entire data and analytics space as much as possible, try to smoothen the entire process of how someone uses a data, how data flows, and what sort of analysis can you come up with. So basically it is our level of readiness in terms of how we use our entire skill set in terms of analytics and the data that we have, how robust of a structure do we have, and how we can up the game for ourselves. So working on that.
Can you give me an example of how data has solved specific problem that you have worked on?
One specific thing or one major thing, the way we have completely changed the game in terms of the packaging that we do is there's something called payback that we do. Initially, it was more about either what we felt was right for the customers or what we felt was probably a reaction or probably a response to what a competitor would have done. Something we do internally right now, which has sort of become a part of the fabric of our business, is the payback analysis before coming out with a new package. So what we do is, basis the history of subscribers that we have and the kind of products that we have, what is the likely age on network for this particular individual or for this sort of a package in this geography. So this is like a major change or major contribution that an analytical mindset or a financial mindset could bring in.
Paras, you were a marketing enthusiast. You went on field, you did sales, you did your 2 years of sales stint, and then you decided that you wanted to be in the realm of finance, right? It's a choice that very few people take up because once you have done your sales, then you do your marketing, you become a brand manager, and the chart is sort of prepared before you even know it. But you decided otherwise, right? Help me understand the rationale behind this decision. Why did you think that that's the right thing to do, and how is it like so far that you have been part of this?
I always started off wanting to be more of a generalist rather than a specific or subject matter expert. So that is one reason, but probably a bigger, more fundamental reason is that both my parents are bankers. The finance part was somewhere ingrained in me. I just had this natural liking or affinity for it. I have a strong understanding of how a brand team works through my stints, etc. And even things like, okay, what is the brand purpose, what are the STPs, 4Ps, like even looking at an ad, I can tell that to a certain extent. So that part is done now. I was like, okay, what is the next thing that I would want to add to my portfolio? So for that, I thought finance was the big thing because that was a complete different ball game altogether. It was nowhere related to marketing or the creative aspect that I was doing. This is creativity of a different kind, I would say. Probably the first stepping stone towards that was I had given the certification exam called CFA, which is Chartered Financial Analyst. So that was more for me to test the waters to see whether I would even like it or whether I do good in it. So after giving the level 1 exam, I was like, okay, this is something that I enjoy.
But isn't it difficult because in an organization also, the organization would like their best minds to be in a particular field that they are doing best at, right? You deciding that you want to be in finance is something that the organization might not like because they would like to keep you doing what you are doing best. So in your case, was that the case?
Thankfully, I'm in an organization which encourages change and also evolution of the people. They want to keep the employees happy as well. Plus, they see it from a point of view that, okay, someone who has already done a sales stint, he would definitely add a different sort of value to the finance team. So when I came in, I was probably the only guy who had a proper sales background. So rest of the members were either direct recruits from campuses or they worked in like a commercial team or a marketing team. But the kind of perspective that I bring in was different from what others could bring in. So that way it is kind of encouraged at Tata Play that you keep moving, and not just at a beginner level. I would say I started off as a management trainee, did 2 years and then moved to finance. But even at a CXO level or even like a subject or rather a team lead level, we've seen people who switch domains completely.
Right now, what we are seeing in terms of people who are interested in different sort of roles, they are not limiting themselves. Right. Just like you don't want to, be on the same train forever in your life, right? And you want to try out different thing, and that's what we are seeing as a trend, right? For somebody like that, what should be an ideal company for them, and what sort of skills do they need to develop so that they are ready for when they are joining a company like that?
So I would say one of the things that at least I also try to follow is, at any given point in time, if you're confused about, let's say, two options in what you want to pursue, you go about asking the people who've actually done it. So you ask your peers, you ask your seniors, your batchmates, ki, okay, this is the goal that I see, or this is the path that I see for the next 2-3 years for myself. How has it been for you? If you're uncertain, if you're very sure, well and good. Very few people are sure about what they want to do next. Probably in terms of the skill set, obviously you can't come up with like a skill set. Like if you are applying for a role, it's not necessary that you have an experience in it. So probably go about doing some sort of certification courses, or see what exactly is being appreciated. Because I would say from personal experience, I did not have any finance background at all in my career, either in terms of the kind of courses that I've done, or even like the experience that I have, the roles I've done. So what helped my case was the interviewers or the team that I joined. They saw that, okay, this person has put in the effort to sort of go through the certification course, which was CFA in my case. So they said, okay, this person is willing to put in the effort to learn this new thing which he does not know about. And the kind of attitude that they see is that, okay, they have a learning mindset. So probably the biggest advice or suggestion I would have is just be curious and keep learning, never stop learning.
Absolutely, never stop learning, and that's the key. That's Paras for us. Thank you very much, Paras, for sharing your journey, your experience with us. If you liked what you heard, do tell us in the comments section below. You can ask questions to Paras. Also, if you want to meet, there's a link in the description. Do check that out. Fill out the form. Ask your question there. Thank you very much, Paras, once again, and all the best in your life in achieving the goals and dreams.
Thank you so much.